good?
Yeah, I'm good. Hit it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna wing it.
Yep, we're in. All right. This is a long form video, so hang around. This is like go get a cup of tea or a beer and sit down and have a listen. It's unplanned, unscripted chat, and it sort of falls into our Workshop Warrior podcast that we wanted to do. We even started a whole new channel called Workshop Warriors, but turns out when you put one video on one new channel, it doesn't do anything at all. So we're bringing it back to Dash Off Road, but I guess we're talking about 4x4 DNA stuff more so, or just Y62 stuff. We're going to get into transmissions later. But my guest today, and I'm planning to have all different guests, my guest today is Steve Allan.
Hey.
So we're in.
So you're going to be here a while, so definitely grab that beer.
And we're in our studio, which we haven't formally used to its full effect yet. This is the first time. So like we've got fancy mics and lights, and we can do sound effects.
I'm actually digging this. I think this is...
Oh, that's new too.
Yeah, that's fancy.
It actually needs to be mounted. And
No, don't, because I'll take it home.
And it's got like the paper on the back that you're supposed to peel off, but like on camera it gives like a really good contrast. So
Yeah.
we'll
Rustic appearance in the background.
studio is a work in progress. All right.
What's this for, mate?
This is to sound out the workshop.
So yesterday you were saying if you got really pissed off, you could actually headbutt it and not hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's so like I'm slowly working towards having like a padded room, so when I go insane, I just need the jacket next.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I'm going to ask you some questions. How did we meet?
Okay, I'll tell the story of the first time we met.
Yeah.
But you've always said the story better with the other.
I'll get into the next bit then.
All right, so Dave's come into my work at Virginia, so my mechanical shop, Steve Allan's Mechanical, and he's brought his cars in, and they always had this like, I always knew it was Dave because when we pull a wheel off, you had the sand, but you had that grit that came with it, like Shelly grit, and I was like, where's this guy go?
Little marbles in it.
Yeah. So hindsight is every time we saw the shell grit, I knew I was working on Dave's car, and it was from Love Day. And he always gave me a challenge. But there was one particular day that he came in and he sort of started having a good old chat and asking questions and making some weird comments, and I was just answering them and just doing, what I had to do, but didn't realise that Numbnuts here is actually giving me a bit of a quiz to give me a bit of a test to see if he's the right guy that he was thinking to bring on. And well,
it was an informal interview.
That was the initial like weird. This guy's weird. Like is this guy a bit quirky? I went into Marion in the office. Like man, it was just a weird conversation, but it was good. But it was weird. But yeah, that was Dave. Anyway, I think the next story is the best story.
Well, it's even goes before that. I think is when I started bringing my car to you. It was the first time I brought my car to you, and I came in and basically interviewed you as a mechanic to make sure you're
that was the weird bit. That was the like, whoa, okay, it's just a patrol.
And booked the car in for 2 weeks on a Wednesday, and dropped it down in the morning. Come back home because I was in my day job back then, pretending to work at home, and had friends around, our farmers. All the kids were young back then, playing out the back, and this like husky digs under my back fence, and like it's in the chook yard in my house. It goes and like starts grabbing them, mauling the chooks. Then my daughter, who must have been, I don't know, only 3, runs in and like, Dad, there's a dog in the backyard. And anyway, I go out, get the dog, bring it out, then my kids start patting it. Like, this isn't good. It's got a tag on its collar, ring it up. This lady answers, get here now, get your dog, it's mauling my chickens, it's scaring my children, be here in 10 minutes or I'm going to shoot it. And I was pretty mad about the chickens because it was close then. Tied the dog up out the front, and minutes later, this lady pulls up in a Commodore, comes out sheepishly, grabs the dog and drives off. Right, good, dealt with that. Talk to my friends, whatever, get to the end of the day, get a phone call, come down and pick up your car, and I can walk there from my house in Virginia to the main street where it is shop, and walk in and locked eyes, and it was the same woman that came and picked up the dog. It was Marion.
Yeah, and Marion's coming into the office is like, honey, you need to take over. I said, well, what's going on? That's the guy with the dog. That's him. And I was like, really?
So I got. It was a bit uncomfortable. I got $50 off my service, I think. For the 2 chickens that are no longer with us, and but then it started something. Then
it did. I think I felt really bad, and yeah, but then you bought your patrol and said, hey,
yeah, let's put these haulers in.
He brings his patrol in. He wants the biggest lift. He wants 37s, and I'm like, how am I going to fit this armour suspension in your car?
I got onto Tough Dog and said, what's the biggest coil? And he's like, it's this. And I said, no, I want bigger.
Yeah.
And he goes, I can give you an armoured vehicle coil from the UK. I'll get it in for you. And then you had to work out how to fit it for the first time.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there with the spring compressor that's designed for farm cars. And I was just like, this ain't going to work. Like, if I told you how I did it, I'll probably get... I'm going to tell you how I did it.
So, safety.
I really couldn't work out how to get these springs in this coil without, trying to get the nut on the top with it protruding through. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go real backyard style here. And I put the spring on my hoist with his car on it. And I lowered the actual hoist down to compress the spring to be able to get the nut on. And then he goes, what do you mean? It's easy. I've done one in the yard already. And I said, yeah, and that's why you haven't done another one again. And you gave it to me because you couldn't do it. It's done by lunchtime. That's his comment that's been around and stuck around with us for a long time. But that was seriously dangerous.
I don't even know why we're talking about that. That's to get you as.
But then...
And the wheels were like this.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. So I've rushed and panic mode trying to get all these like suspension in his car and get it all set up.
So I had to go back to Loveday.
So he's come back to my place. It's starting to get dark, and I've just gone, look, Dave, I'm sorry, I've done the best I possibly can, but your wheels are out like this at the back. I said, I don't know what to do.
Independent suspension? Or you would have never worked on it?
I never worked on a patrol independent suspension. So I was like, yep, done fantastic. Dave's gone around and said, oh, I've got some information. I've got onto OnTrack.
Yep.
And he's got me some bushes. He goes, oh, you just put these bushes in the top rear arms and it's all sweet. You'll be able to get a wheel alignment. So I've got these bushes and I'm looking at it going, what do I do here? Like, now I've got to try and pull this apart. When are you going to Loveday? So I've had to literally pull apart the back of this car. I sat there for a good 2 hours trying to work out how to get that darn ball joint undone. Remember that ball joint?
Yeah. This is back in 2014, 15, something like that, I reckon. So 10 years ago.
So I sat there all day in between trying to do my service work, trying to work out how to get this ball joint undone so I can get these darn bushes in so I can get those wheels to sit up straight. It was again dark the next night and I'm still working away and he's going, what are you doing? Like, go home to your family. And I'm like, no, I've got to get this done. Finally worked out a little way to get that bloody ball joint undone. And it was very easy, but...
it was, but like that was the start of something that ended up being...
That was the start of a learning curve, yeah.
You hear about a lot of, people that have interesting ways they meet and, they end up being like friends for life and all that sort of thing. And I think, we're going to be telling that story for a long time to come.
Yeah. Well, it's been 5 years and it still pops up all the time.
Right. So I guess we were learning about both learning about the patrol at the same time back then.
Oh, definitely.
But that kind of hasn't stopped. That's,
that's what got us into it.
And I think, like, I'm guessing here, but like for you, this looked like it was a puzzle. This patrol, like it's got all these weird things that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Just trying to find ways to like improve the patrol.
I must admit it was quite a challenge. We were very close to, and still are, like Andrew Casser. He was actually giving me some really, really good advice, like top guy. I think we both had that connection because we sort of pushed ourselves through different things and, the God of 62, speaking to him and getting him to really pump me into a position where I was confident was, once again, you gave me his number and said, give this guy a call. Yeah,
Andrew taught us everything we knew.
Oh man, 100%. And then we've just sort of grown from there and, we're still good friends in the game. But no, honestly, it was a puzzle. Yeah, independent bloody patrol.
Maybe I should get Andrew on one of the podcasts. That'd be good.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Andrew, if
very
you,
informative.
He says he doesn't watch my videos, but I know he does. So come down to Adelaide, and you can come to the studio, and we'll do this as well.
I promise, Andrew, if you do this, I'll take my boat out.
Come on, my boat. It's fine.
Oh dear.
It'll be all right. That's been. That could be another whole podcast. We'll just stay out of that, I think. But yeah, learning about these patrols all the way, and we saw the Series 1s, not really Series 2s, the 3s and 4s, and we started the business together and Dash Off Road, and we started with Dash Off Road with Matt, and then it was 4x4 DNA with you, and then that's sort of been exploding as well. But we're still pulling apart cars, and
even till today, we're still learning, and there's proof in the pudding with the transmissions. But look, I'm more keen to say this, like the input that I've given to you, like I'm never going to learn computer stuff.
Yeah, I think you are. You got your first computer last
you made me buy these bloody things.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't see. So anyway, that's another story. But the input that Dave gives to customers is quite funny actually, because he's very, like, he's a sponge. You tell him something that's on the floor and you're hands-on trying to work it out. And I explain it to him, but I listen to him talk to a customer, explain it, and he's never touched it in his life. But he does a damn good job.
Fake it till I make it, yeah.
No, you don't fake it till you make it. You just know that, like, you back yourself, You've been in the game, you see it.
Well, it's
physically don't have to actually have your hands on it to do it, and then realise that, no, that is true. So the stories that you've given the customers over the years is fantastic to be able to be in that position.
Same with you. It's like when you're passionate about something, you absorb it, and then I guess with YouTube, but we've got the opportunity to try and teach it, and Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of thing. So let's talk a bit more about these trans, because I want to talk about, I've been driving one of these things for, 11 years, and you've been driving one for 5 nearly.
Yeah.
And we get customers come in, even when probably the most I learn is like when we go out on these trips, and you go out with someone and they'll say, I've got this symptom or that symptom, and then we come back to work and start researching it and that sort of thing. But I want to talk about some of the symptoms that you've heard of from customers or of yourself that happens with just transmission things.
Yeah. So understanding, like, I'm more the mechanical sort of background, and I've had a lot of input in regards of like the engine side of things, the suspension, general maintenance. But now that I've got into the aspect of fitting accessories and having vehicles tow 3.5 tonne and really like pushing these vehicles to a limit, I've always thought, leave the transmission, don't play around with it, keep it stock. Like,
it's got a big cooler.
It's perfectly fine. Like, have a look at the size of the cooler. It's air cooled. It's massive. Like, why would you play around with these things? But until you actually go to the harder thing, was, as a matter of fact, Dave and I went over, and this is what put us into going over to Melbourne and seeing wholesale automatic transmissions. So we saw Rodney and Ash, top people,
very clever guys,
very clever. Reminded me of us too. Like, we're honest. They felt honest. They were giving us the truth. It plays a big game with all the inputs of everyone giving you all these ideas on Facebook and coming in and talking to you. If you go to the heart and you get the word from them, that's where to go. You've got to really go to that person that just knows what's happening. Gone off target there a little bit, but like, to get all this input from all these different people, I have been saying in the years, look, leave the trans, don't touch it, don't put extra coolers, you don't need pans, the trans is fine. You just got to drive it properly. Okay. Absolutely.
Let's talk about that, because this is where we're not 100% equal on this part.
Yeah.
What gear do you tow in?
This is a debate with Dave and I. But I've come to the understanding, and I'm going to say this before we go into it too far, I've come to the understanding on how you drive, okay? And I've even tried it, sneakily, because I don't want you to know. But I personally come from a background that I've rebuilt gearboxes in my life, manual gearboxes.
And these things, fifth gear is 1-to-1.
don't confuse the matter. Right.
Right.
So in going into a manual transmission rebuild. So I always know that when I rebuild that, I've got gears from one end of the gearbox to the other. So I've, in my head, go, all right, well, I tell customers, if you're going to tow on a manual gearbox, you don't tow in 5th gear. You tow in 4th, because it's more central to the box and it doesn't overheat the bearings either end. So it's, you know, something that's always been in the back of my head. Okay, well, automatic transmission, having not rebuilt transmissions, not having the full, complete understanding, I thought to myself, the same situation when it comes to the trans. No, it's not. Okay, so if I was towing 3.5 ton or 3 ton, and you're using drive, because Dave likes leaving his in drive, and we're cruising down the road, it's the same as if I'm in manual. So I use manual mode, so 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Well, as a matter of fact, Dave's probably right, because I'm manually shifting and I'm not letting the brains of the car do its job. It's
my theory,
taking all the inputs, all the sensors and everything, so it's selecting the gears at the right time that it feels it's right, where I'm manually shifting it.
And my theory is that I'm not smarter than Nissan in this respect. I figured they've got an algorithm, and it changes gears on certain torque loads. And, you know, again, I'm not a mechanic, but I trust the gearbox, except I've thrown 35s on it, so it wasn't designed for that. However, if I see it jumping up and down because you're going through hills or you're going around, then I'll put it into manual, and then I'll sort of like be a bit more alert to change your gears, and I'll do it that way.
Yeah.
From rolling down a hill, I'll let it go into 6th, 7th, even if it wants to. But if I can see a hill coming, I'll probably drop it back to 5th. Like, I'll put it in manual. So instead of changing gear sort of halfway up the hill, I'll put it in the gear that I need, that I think I'm going to need at the top, but I'll put it in at the bottom before it loads up. Yeah,
and that's the bit that I sort of go, all right, well, if you're driving in drive, and you're going headwind, slight hill climb, you know, undulations in the road and so forth, and it starts shifting up in from 6th to 5th to 4th to 5th to 6th. Like, every time it's shifting, it's slipping, it's getting hot, okay? And I thought to myself, no, I can't let my trans do that. So I just lock mine over into 5th gear and just cruise. Loads is something that you can see with scan gauge or ultra gauge.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So you can see how much load you're putting on the engine, transmission, and so forth. So that's something that I've sort of gone on the back of what Dave said, because he's like all into all this computer stuff, and I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can give it a go. And seeing that is actually a highlight. So going back to the manual gearbox, 5th gear, no, you don't tow in that. Transmission, 5th gear, high, 6th, 7th, you don't tow in those. Well, you know what? If it's dead flat, you can, and you can keep it down as long as those loads aren't too high. Because if you're getting into the 90s, 95, well, that's where you need to shift it down. It'll be just like driving on the sand in high range instead of low range. You know, like driving on the sand in high range, everything gets hot, and you just don't realise.
Yeah, when you're seeing like load equals heat, essentially.
Yeah. So shifting in drive, shifting forward gears, back gears, forward gears, back gears, going down a road that's got the slight ups and downs, I don't personally like that. I'd rather just leave it in 5th or 4th, depending on the conditions. I am going to admit, we came home from a headwind from Mount Gambier, and I got my trans that hot because I left it locked in 5th, understanding that when I was putting my foot down, I felt that it had like power, and it was my speed was picking up, so I just left it there, but I was wrong. So leaving mine locked up.
You yourself in now.
Yeah, but I was wrong. But I'll admit it. But I know what I did wrong.
I've got an ultra gauge video coming up soon, and I've said I know this person, but I didn't name you, so we could have got away with it.
Well,
now they're going to know who it was.
No, that's fine. So what I've ended up doing is I've left it locked up in 5th, and leaving it locked up in 5th, headwind. She was pretty windy that day.
It was full on.
I've got to Adelaide. I've slowed down to a set of lights, and I've gone to take off. Marion's sitting next to me, and the kids are in the car, and suddenly I've got the shutters, and I've just gone, what is going on? And that shutter is that aggressive. Seriously, I thought my safety Dave was going to fall off my windscreen. I was like, game over. I said to Dave, hey, on radio UHF, how you going? How's your trans? Yeah, I'm alright. Why? What's the matter? Yeah, I think I've just done mine.
I spent most of my day in fourth that day, and just backed it off to 90 k's an hour.
Okay, let's step back an hour of that trip. Hey, Steve-O, on the UHF, what gear you in? You remember this?
Yeah, I just didn't want to dob you in.
No, that's okay. Hey, Steve-O, what gear you in? I said, I'm in fifth, mate. Yeah, right. Well, my car won't even let me get into fifth. I'm like, he goes, put it in drive. I put it in drive and mine stayed in fifth. Really?
Yeah.
So, accelerator pedal position, if I was to put my foot down a little bit in accelerator fifth, it would have gone to fourth and probably stayed in fourth. But I was being like, nah, man, like, I got this. And I probably pushed it a little bit too far. Yeah. I did.
You did. Because, yeah, it was, even though that, and that's what's interesting, this is before you had any, like, aftermarket cooling things on your car.
Yes.
And, yeah, it probably was sitting at, like, 95% load. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Or, that's, I won't say cool's the wrong word, that's okay. And the temps and everything, but it was just that long time of hot oil, and it built up the whole thermal mass in the car.
Yeah, so I got up to, no word of a lie, so trans temp 1 on a scan gauge 3 is your pan temperatures. I was on 92 to 94 degrees on that particular day.
Yeah.
I was probably at 98 on trans temp 2, which is around a torque converter. Now, we realise that is like pushing the limits of a transmission, driving for 6 hours straight, headwind. We didn't really stop. We just kept powering on. We needed to get home. Well, unfortunately, we're learning by testing, and that's exactly what we did.
When you dropped the oil when you got back, what did it look like?
Oh my gosh, like, you know, the viscosity had gone, and honestly, it was like tipping water out. Like it stunk. It stunk the workshop, and it was like water. I just could not believe what it had done to the viscosity of that oil. But the shudder, like I thought it was game over Red Rover. I just thought, no, that's it. I'm gonna have to pull a box out. How much is this gonna cost? Like we've just spent X amount going away. Now I've got to do this. But I saved it. It still hurt.
Yeah.
It's still not 100%. But I know what the issue is. It got that hot that the glaziness around the torque converter clutches from the temperature, they hurt, they're damaged, they're probably highly polished, they got blue spots in them. So now I do slightly get the shudder, but I've got an additive in there that does make it slip to get past that and to give me a better drive. But it's if someone else drove my car, they probably wouldn't feel it, but I know it's there because I know how it did drive to what it is now.
I've test-driven cars that have come in symptomatically, and you know it's like, yeah, it's not good at all. Mine isn't perfect though. Mine clunks every now and then, and I admit I'm not perfect. Like the downside of leaving in drive, sometimes I like to dream when I'm driving. I'm in space thinking about something else, and a hill sneaks up on me, and then it will drop back a gear, and then it'll drop back another gear, rev right out, and you can see it slipping like when it drops back to fourth or third or whatever it is. I'm sure that's not doing it any favours. But
no, I mean, we've both pushed our cars to the limits. We've got all the accessories banged on these things. We've got superchargers on the engines. We're
heavy vans.
Third gear, go, go, go. How many times have we done that in the process of the years that we've had it? So we're definitely, it's like sand runs. Fraser Island, like we're on a sand pushing these things.
And looking back, knowing now about that torque converter, how if you leave it in drive or a gear and it's like, and you got your foot on the brake, that's just cooking the oil in there.
Yeah.
Although, again, I'm not, never pulled one of these apart, I don't know, but I think that must be at the end of the circuit before it gets to the cooler, then comes back to the pan, and then that's the cooled oil that comes up. But there would have to be a certain amount of time, I don't know what it is, that it's done that circuit so many times, that, especially if you're bogged on a beach, that it can't cool anymore. And those trans temps in the pan and inside the box would just be like, you'd be... I reckon next time I have a severe bogging, I'm going to probably come back and do a trans service because,
100%. Yeah, no, definitely. For the sake of fluid, and every 10,000 Ks, for severe use that we put these things through, it's a no-brainer. It's something that we probably should look into. But you know what, we've sort of bypassed, and we haven't really given people the true fact of towing yet. Let's finalise that.
What do you mean?
So, am I still going to drive in manual? Yes. Is it something that an ultra scan, an ultra gauge, or a scan gauge 3 can help in this respect? Yes,
Absolutely.
So I think using those two items and having those in front of you with the OBD2 onboard diagnostics and all the information that we can see is important for loads and temperatures, obviously. But the loads is something that if you are in fifth gear and you start to climb that hill, but it's only a slight increase, but then you see it get up to 95, well, that's when you just flick it over to fourth gear. And these things,
my threshold's 80. As soon as I see 80% load, that's when I go down.
Yeah,
here.
well, let's say that then, 80.
Yeah.
So if you're at 80 and you go, well, I'm going to go to 95 if I want to just try and keep that speed at 90, 100, 110, whatever you sit at. Well, that's when you just got to flick it back down to next gear. Dave, obviously, I'll let him speak for himself, but I feel that he's found a way to drive these patrols in drive, which is perfectly fine. And what you just said before was, at the bottom of the hill, you'll select the gear and go if you think you need it. But I think that's important that people understand that, because if you're driving up a hill in drive, I think with the shifting back, shifting forward, shifting back, do you agree? I think it's a problem.
And I'm sure, like before I had any of these little goodies fitted, like I've gone back from like that a big trip where I've been towing like all day, and it's almost like I get back home and then I'll drop back to third gear for whatever reason. Now in the city close to home, I have a massive clunk, and I swear, just the cooler's done its best to keep the oil cool. But when you're driving all day, under load, towing heavy, like constant the whole time, it just does the same thing and boils that oil.
Well, this is where we're at now. This is exactly where we're at now. So obviously, Dave and I have gone and done a hell of a lot of trips together. Very equal amount of kilometres in the cars, and we're starting to see these issues, and we want to resolve the issue because that's what we do best. We test stuff.
I guess the reason, like I've had my stand and you've had your stand, is because we end up giving people advice. They'll say, oh, what gear do you tow in? And you'll go down your path, and I'll go down my path, so I'll keep it in drive until I have a hill come up. But what I'm worried about is if we give the advice that, just put it in fifth, drive across the Nullarbor, you'll be fine. But that particular day on the Nullarbor, there's headwinds, like it's probably more of a fourth gear day than a fifth day gear. Yeah. But if we tell the person just lock it in fifth, then by the time they get to Perth, it's going to be cooked.
100%. Proof in the pudding.
Whereas putting it in drive, it'll at least it's like a backup plan. The ECU, whatever it's called for the transmission
control module. Yep.
Yeah, that thing. At least that will kick it back and alert you, and it will rev out and do silly things. But at least you're going to go, oh, maybe fifth gear's not the right gear today.
Yeah.
But you got to be intuitive.
I agree.
I reckon every car that tows needs some sort of a gauge, just to look at the load.
Yep.
And temperature, and so you can see obviously engine, coolant oil, and trans temp. I think. Well, okay. Your opinion on measuring trans temp in the pan versus the torque converter?
Yeah, well, like I say, we've done the study now, and we're starting to really get a gist of all this inputs about the transmission. But as a matter of fact, I thought on the scan gauge it gives you trans temp 1, which is your pan temperature, and it gives you trans temp 2, which is your torque converter temp. Now, I thought originally that trans temp 2 was the important one, that I don't want to get up over 100. I want to maintain that. If I'm sitting at a set of lights in drive, not moving, right, sitting at a set of lights in drive, that trans temp 2 can climb well and truly above 100. And that made me go, well, this isn't any good. Now that I can see what's happening, I was putting it into neutral and I was letting it letting it idle without affecting the, not making the torque converter slip, which then I could see my temperature back down to quite even numbers, and I just thought, far out, like this is crazy. But
is that a problem?
No, no, it's not a problem. So torque converter slip is going to cause friction, it's going to cause heat. Yeah, it's not the problem. That's what's in your pan that's going to follow through. Yeah. So trans temp 1 in the pan is actually the one you want to maintain and keep a constant temperature and keep cool. If that was at 110, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in big trouble. Like that there is pullover temperatures. You know what? I wouldn't want to see it anywhere over 100.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite interesting that the more information that we're getting from the heart of the transmission builders, Rodney, thanks, is pretty
Even,
much...
we're very lucky, actually. We've got two people that worked at Wholesale Automatics that now are in our Melbourne business in 4x4 DNA, and we're getting a lot of lessons out of them too.
Oh, huge amount of lessons. So I've actually gone and seen a complete pull down of all the mechanical inside a transmission to understand. Daniel is someone that we've got on board in Melbourne. Oh, honestly, like he spent an hour with me just explaining, like absolute legend. He has given me such input that has just made the rest of what we do and what we're doing now understand it's so true.
And how different is it to your manual gearboxes you pull apart where fifth and reverse are up the back here? It's nothing like that.
No, it's nothing like that. It's just lots of clutch packs and a cluster, and oh man, there's a lot, and I'm still learning. Like, I can't even describe it. Like there's a certain name for this bearing that's a one-way bearing. You know, like it drives the gear one way, and then when it changes gear, it releases. And sometimes this particular thing is failing inside the transmission, and it's like, far out, I've seen that. And now I have an understanding. Like the customer came in and pretty much had a transmission that blew up, and we were like, I don't understand how. It had only done 11,000 Ks. Yeah. And, you know, this is now seeing the inputs and all the mechanical side of it, it makes it really like come alive. So.
And it's fair to say, like we sit here on YouTube talking about this, we're not. I don't think we can say we're experts, but we're like researching it and doing everything we can.
Far from experts. I'm never going to say we're an expert, but I absorb as much information as I possibly can to be better at diagnosing these problems.
So let's talk about. Well, I'm curious here because everyone talks about what's the right temperature that our trans should be sitting in, but is that the right question?
Okay, so the temperature of your trans is obviously important. Like Rodney was explaining to us that there's actually two things that are important here. Transmission temperatures above 50 degrees is where you want to sort of keep it above 50, but you don't want to exceed, 100 because you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So you want a sort of a variance between 50 and 80. Rodney, if I'm wrong on exactly the right numbers,
you can comment.
But I honestly understand that 50 and under, well, yeah, it's probably a bit too low. 40 and under, you sort of want to get those temperatures up because everything's designed with the right gapping inside the transmissions.
That's when the oil gets to its desired viscosity.
Yeah, that's it. They've designed vehicles out there with really, really, really low viscosity, like almost like water fluid to go into these transmissions to be able to be great at fuel economy saving. But then there's issues with it being too thin, so they've had to put thermostats in the coolers to actually heat the fluid up to be able to make it work efficiently, and it's just like far out. So they've overcomplicated it in some cases.
Maybe we should explain the people that haven't delved into it, what the components of the cooling system is for the trans.
Yeah. So the components of the cooling system, obviously, in the standard pan, is your main fluid that goes through your valve body, and then when it's going through your valve body, it goes to the torque converter and it heats up. Okay, so heating up in the torque converter, going through the clutches in the gearbox, and then back to your cooler. So the main section of your trans cooler is at the front of the vehicle. So Nissan have got quite a large cooler, which is quite good.
Decent, yeah.
And then it will go back through and into your pan and do the whole cycle again. So
that's what it is. When we all bought these in, like the people that early adopters and bought these in 2013, 14, 15, like they came from the Land Cruiser world or wherever. First mod, let's put a trans cooler on. But then we looked at it and I had a big one there, so we thought, we don't have to worry about this. But we were wrong.
Yeah, we were wrong. So this is where it comes into the actual thermostat in the cooler.
Yeah, so we talked about the pan briefly. Then now we're talking about the thermostat. that opens up the circuit that allows the oil to go through the cooler, opposed to dodging it and like keeping it warm for if you're in Mongolia.
What a spin that was, like in life, of thinking that the transmission coolers are sufficient, you know, like an absolute mind-blowing sort of like ching, like you've got to be kidding me. Like, we're relying on that little thermal temperature thermostat. I was thinking to myself, like, how does it work? And I've done a video on it, but
It's a Facebook one, on the DNA Adelaide page, I think it was.
Yeah. So you know, I sat there and I thought to myself, far out, that mechanism has got a little pin that pops out of it at a certain temperature that pushes spring pressure back to be able to have the flow of trans fluid to go through another section to then go through the cooler and back to the trans. Really? Like, we're relying on this to happen when we're driving from Mount Gambier to Headwind. We're relying on this to happen when we're going on the beach and we're just having a ball, but actually things are just about going to be a money pit for us in a minute.
Even when you put that post up, and there was other workshops around the country that like chimed in. Matt from Pro Diesel said he's seen, you know, multiple failures of those. So it's a common thing that they fail.
Yeah, so the rod doesn't actually come out and push the spring pressure back, so it just continually bypasses. So it's got a fluid track that comes in, and then it will go directly down the side of the trans cooler and then back out the hose. It won't actually go through the cooler. And the reason for that, though, is to get the temperatures up. So if you're in cold climate and your temperatures are at 0 degrees, it needs to get to a certain temp before the transmission's, you know, behaving and not hurting itself because it's too cold. Totally understand that. Respect that. Like, good on you, Nissan. Like, brilliant idea. But in Adelaide?
Nah. Or even most of Australia, to be honest.
Yeah. Like, I came into the workshop this morning and my car was stone cold, and I thought, I wonder what temperature it is actually sitting at. 26 degrees.
It's ambient, yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, you know what? Perfect. We're doing the right thing here.
So I've had a bit of a play with, you've done the bypass on your car.
Yes.
I've done the cooler on my car. And we're just like monitoring, I suppose, some of the numbers at the moment. I think it's too early to be exact, but I think both of us have instantly experienced like a drop in temperature.
Yeah, drop in temperature, which is great because, you know, that's what we are after. Cooler temps, lasting longer, and it can maintain, look after the trans clutches and converter clutches. And
so that's, getting back to, are we asking the right question? How much is this going to drop the temperature of my trans? Like, I don't think that's the right question. And we were discussing it before camera. You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
All right, you go.
So, obviously, we're not trying to get the temperatures right down, and we're not. It sort of defeats the purpose of having the temperatures right down. If I talk 15, 20 degrees, you know, less, well, that's not what we want. We want to have the trans temp maintain its temperature in the pan longer, cooler, to look after the ongoing process that goes through. So the torque converter at the moment, you know, without having the bypass in or the drop pan or the extra cooler, is going to heat up faster as we go up that hill. We're going to get halfway up that hill, and then our temperatures are starting to get hotter and hotter and hotter, and we're relying on the top of that hill to start cooling back down again. If I can get to the top of the hill before that gets hot and then hotter and hotter, well, I've done the right thing. So I can keeping it cooler to last longer to get to the top of those hills and maintain temperatures. If I can keep my temperatures within the specs that Nissan like our transmissions, like in between let's just pull a figure, so 55 to 80. If I can keep those temperatures in that at a longer period of time, we've mastered what we need to do for our customers.
Yeah. So,
and mine.
If only we knew this earlier, to be honest. So if I drive to work without any load, like no caravan, I'm getting somewhere between 80 and 85 degrees, something like that. But if I load my car up and put the van on the back and I'm driving up a hill, that's going to start to increase. And there'll be a point where it will exceed the limits that Nissan want us to have the temperature of the fluid. So all these other goodies, really, the aim is not necessarily to lower it all the time. It's to when it's under duress, not let it go past the factory limits.
Yeah.
Essentially, and we've got 3 products. So this is somewhat theoretical because it's all new to us, but we're going out this weekend and basically we're going to hammer all of this.
Yeah,
we know what our
definitely.
temps were before. You've got the bypass and the pan in your car done, and I've done the bypass and the trans cooler, and we'll just go and tow these vans around that, I'd be very close to my 7-ton GCM, I reckon.
So our cars are very similar in regards of supercharged, got the weight on them, they're very close to
35s.
and our vans, pretty close as well. So this is a perfect example of being able to have the comparison of the two of us, and we can just talk on the UHF through this and take some photos. But
yeah,
I think having the extra cooler is going to keep you cooler a little bit longer. But this is the proof in the pudding. So we're physically going to do it and show the numbers and have another video.
Well, essentially, it's going through 2 coolers now.
Yeah, that's right.
So it'd be super cool. But that's where I think it's going to stay in those limits even longer.
And this is where I was saying,
it's more oil.
On my video, like in regards to the thermostat side of things, is the Nissan cooler adequate enough? Well, now we're going to prove that. So
about to find
your
out.
cooler with the extra cooler, the secondary cooler, ideally should be theoretically cooler. So let's see.
I think it will be in circumstances. And again, theoretical. We're going to go test this, but I reckon when you've got that hot ambient temperature, maybe that's when it will help. But otherwise, I reckon, the bypass will be fine for. But if I was full time on the road travelling, or I, do big days of travelling, that's when I think the extra cooler is going to do it.
This is an interesting fact. Driving home with the bypass in, Dave, did you notice your coolant temp was lower?
Yeah, and it makes sense because they were like kind of.
Yeah, it actually like once we start towing, I always saw my vehicle sort of sit at a standard of 91 degrees.
Oh, mine's more. Yeah.
Yeah, but 91 degrees, it was, well, that's where mine was. So you can keep in your head where yours was.
Mine's got some love day in it.
91 degrees, really, really hot days. We had that day where it was like 46 degrees, eh?
Over Christmas coming back through.
The road was melting when we bloody walked out.
The cars were hating it.
Yeah. But my coolant temp on that particular day was sitting at 93, 94, 95, big fan cuts in, and it was maintaining, looking after itself. So what I'm getting at is the temperature was in the 91 constant. If I'm sitting and towing on this weekend, and an hour and a half in, and I'm still at 91, okay, there's no difference. But if I'm actually cooler, is that because the cooler is cooler, and I'm not blowing hotter, like warm air through that, and it's not, you know what I mean? Is that, like, here I am mechanical, but I'm just putting these theories in as well.
Hopefully watching this though in Y62s that have got some or all of these products that might be able to comment of their numbers that they're getting, because it'd be interesting. Really like to know if people that have just done the bypass and people done the bypass and the cooler, or even people done those 2 plus the pan as well. Like what the reported differences are. We don't know yet because we haven't done it. We've got to go out and test it now.
There's one thing that I am playing around with though on this transmissions and understanding the concept of all the little bits and pieces is the trans heater, trans oil like heater.
Right.
I thought it was a cooler, but it heats up the oil, helps heat it up faster. I'm leaving mine on.
Okay.
I'm leaving mine connected. I'm not bypassing that because I think that could be something that we do later, but I don't want to play around with it too much. But I thought I'd just add that. There is also a heater. So that heater helps warm up the temperature of the coolant, the trans fluid, to be able to get it to operating temperature faster.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, maybe take that off as well. But then I might be going under the threshold of...
It'd be too... It won't get too much viscosity, and use more fuel.
I don't really want to do that. So there's lots of things in the pipeline that we're testing, but...
It's good to...
This weekend will be really good.
Talk about it. Yeah, learn about it. Anyone that's driving around, the Riverland this weekend or Barossa, put on channel 56 and you'll... actually, this video is going out after. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you ever see us driving around, we're on channel 56 if you want to ask us what our coolant temps are or trans temps are.
You know what? Look, let's talk about the pan.
Yeah. Okay.
Dave actually said something really cool with this pan. He's like,
Trying to explain
it's a deep pan for our transmissions, and like, how do we tell our wives to sell that to a customer over the, when they come in? Like, it's going to be hard because they won't get their head around it, and like going up a hill and staying cooler for longer.
You're lucky Sharon doesn't watch my videos. I know she doesn't.
And I thought to myself, I did use the hill as an example, thinking it might be, easy to understand. And then Dave goes, nah. He goes, I got an even better idea. And I was like, what is it? Can I say it?
Yeah.
He goes, so you put your beer in the esky, right? And you have one bag of ice, okay? That's a standard pan. He goes, now that beer's obviously going to stay cold for a certain period of time with one bag of ice. So put another bag of ice in there, which is a drop pan, a bigger pan. And he goes, and that beer is going to stay colder for longer, right? And I was just like, perfect. You know what? That is so good.
When you're telling Sharon that, if you exchange it from beer to wine, you've
nailed it. You're right. Yeah,
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to go and test this stuff out now, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really, really looking forward. I'm excited to get on there and smash it out. I think it's going to be quite in.
This will be the podcast theoretical discussion at it. But yeah, the next video that will come up will be after the trip, and then we can say this is exactly what happened. So you have to watch that one as well.
Can you leave my dog out of it this time?
He's bringing the dog?
I got rid of the dog that ate
that
chicken.
one. That'll learn him. All right. So I think we've got through our points now, and we tested the studio. Hopefully the audio works. Have we got like a button you can press for success, for cheering? Thank you, producer. All right, let's finish this one up, and we'll go and make some more content for you guys to see on YouTube, Facebook. And there's a new 4x4 DNA Australia Facebook page, so we're going to do a lot of our national sort of campaigns and on there, so make sure you go and check that out and press like and follow. But all the local builds and all of that you'll see on the Melbourne page, Perth and Adelaide and so forth. So that's explaining the differences of the pages, and even all the weirdness of having a 4x4 DNA video on a dash off road, because they're actually totally separate businesses. All right, that could be another podcast altogether. All right, I'm going to finish this one up. And
thanks, Dave.
It's Easter Thursday, so let's get these cars out and get away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, see you next time on YouTube. There we go.